Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm Rob, your host. I'm broadcasting live west of Orlando, Florida, in the Pinehurst Palace in the underground bunker. I have on the sat feed Dalton the Authenticator and the real RDV with me. Tonight, we are, as usual on Sunday nights, currently the boys on Buffy, where we review Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show from the late 90s to early 2000s. Tonight will be episodes 3 and 4. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we this evening?
Doing awesome.
I'm doing pretty well as well, even though the world's literally on fire at the moment. But that's neither here nor there.
I have my finger extinguisher, and I'm okay.
Speaking of fire, that just jumps us right into episode 3. It's a great segue there too, because with our thunderstorms here in Central Florida and copious amounts of tear gas, it often reminded me of what it would be like if you spontaneously combust, and that brings us to the witch. We had talked last week on the first 2 episodes in season 1 of Buffy about how. Of course, it was kind of just basically one long episode split into 2. So I would classify these 2 that we're going to be talking about more as like a monster of the week type thing. And I got to give Buffy credit, the show, for this. They got ahead of the cheerleader thing before Bring It On or anything else there too, because a bunch of weird cheerleader stuff goes on. And
well, if Buffy hadn't done it, I doubt we would have gotten shows like Bring It On or the like, because as I think it was Venkman who said it last week, Buffy did a lot of the teen sitcom stuff before anyone did.
Yeah, and that's, again, that's prescient. That's good timing. I think it's pretty interesting. But one of the things about this episode is obviously there's some witchery stuff going on there too, and I think it's a nice way to introduce some other supernatural element to the show. You know, it starts off with Giles being super fired up about stuff, and I'm like, okay, who's going to be listening to this guy throughout the entire show? But we'll see. But yeah, lots of cheerleaders doing whatever they do, and then one just starts to burn, and you get the scene here, of course, Xander, who I just am putting on permanent mute while he's on.
Shut up, Xander.
Exactly. It's just, there was a twist at the end, and I thought that was kind of neat to it. So it wasn't just your typical predictable type thing. But I will say this, as far as the characters go and what's happening in this episode, I still kind of feel a little bit more drawn to Willow, not because she's dopey or smiley Bandcamp girl, but you know, she obviously was interested in Xander before. Here, she just seems kind of smart, has 1 or 2 interesting things to say. But I kind of like the whodunit aspect of the show, where something's going on and there's definitely some escalation of things that go on until you get to what you think is supposed to be in before, of course, the switch or the little twist to it too. So let me go to you first, Doctor. What did you think of this episode?
Episode 3, you get to see basically what happens when Buffy becomes on crack and just goes like super cheerleader mode. I thought that was like, oh my gosh. But this is, I'd say this more me more. This episode, I did like it. Yeah, the whodunit, you don't know what it is. A little plot twist at the end. You get. I also like that this episode. You're getting to see a little more of Giles, a little more. Like you get this. I think it's this episode. You see Giles' car. It's the first introduction, and I have no idea what the hell that car is. Dalton. Do you know any chance to know what Giles is driving?
Well, you got to check that out, bro. And that you're the car man, so figure that out next time we stream next week. Absolutely, we got to have a car update. Well, it's just to show that he's not riding his tricycle, you know, and he's, you know, not a complete gimp, but, you know, for all intents and purposes, he is. Yeah. Dalton, what about you?
Obviously, I'm a big fan of this episode because of the whole witchcraft angle, and that's kind of my shtick. And and I believe this is the first time in the series we get sort of the hints of witchcraft, which will become a much more substantive element of the universe later. I did find it weird that it might just be a continuity error, but I believe at one point in the episode, while they're basically doing a counterspell, Giles says that the counterspell is his first casting, which I find weird considering that we find out later the Council of Watchers are basically like the magical equivalent of James Bond. So it's a little odd that Giles just not only is it odd that Giles hasn't casted before, but it's also odd that they would trust him to watch over the Slayer, knowing full well that magic is a thing and that people are going to be gunning for her because she's the Slayer. Like, was this just an oversight by the Watcher Council, or is everyone just really, really bad at their jobs, or both?
I think not. Like, again, for me, this is a first time ever watch without knowing anything about it, so I'm watching it cold, which is interesting. And to me, I understand that you can have highlights, you can have ideas where the show can go. Of course, when you're writing 20 plus episodes a season, as they will end up doing, you're going to have some turds, you're going to have some things that don't work, you're going to have some things you're going to try to introduce, and of course, everything else politically speaking and based off fan interest, I'm sure that they course correct and adjust a little bit as the season goes on. So to me, I agree with you in the sense that Giles being the guy that's supposed to kind of be like the father figure in a way, because of course all the guys on here are complete dopes. He's the only one that has any semblance of being somewhat coherent and also adult like. Like I say, he starts off really fired up and pissed off, but to your point, with the introduction of magic and having a witch, I'm going, okay, at least they're introducing something different than the first 2 episodes. What are they going to be doing in the future? Is this going to be something to see? Because if it's just doesn't make any sense later on, or they write themselves out of their own logic, that wouldn't be a good thing at all too. So I thought it was okay.
I figured out what his car is. It's a 1965 Citroen DS21 Plus. It's only made in Europe for a limited amount. It kind of looks like a 4-door kind of BMW. If you think about it.
I think I've heard of that kind of a car before too, but we'll see if later on they do anything with that, or him, or any other things there too. So
I just thought it was so funny. They got the Giles, who's like the nerdiest, the most boring. They got the most British car they could find.
Well, I mean, it fits with the tweed and everything.
Yeah, he's an English gentleman. What else would he drive?
Yeah.
Short of like an Aston Martin or a Bugatti or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically there's a whole race in this episode because things happen where they have to, and trying to stay a little spoiler free here, where they're trying to figure out what's going on with cheerleaders, and things happen. There's accidents. Buffy befriends somebody, and ultimately it's an anti-parent type show so far, but also episode, in the sense that it turns out that the mother of the one cheerleader ended up kind of like flipping her essence into the one of her daughter, so that's kind of the whole swerve to it.
She wanted to relive her glory days, so she basically said, well, you're not doing anything with your teenage years, I'm going to take them from you. And that was the whole
spoiled brat. I mean, God, what's a mother to do except cast the spell? Yeah, here, my final thoughts for this episode would be that Buffy's mom, again, single mom alert, we'll see what happens. I don't find her annoying, and I thought they had some okay banter, but not a bad episode. It was okay.
The mother in this is actually it's Robin Riker. She's from Alligator, 1980, and also Thunder Alley was a short-lived TV series on ABC. So.
Oh, I remember the alligator. Yeah, not a bad episode. I was wondering if they would throw something at the end, kind of go, okay, now I got to pay attention to this in the next episode or later in the season. But again, as a mid-season replacement, we're not sure how many of these are going to be like a Monster of the Week one-offs and everything else too, or how much of an arc they're going to have towards the end. So not a bad episode, and I actually thought an improvement over the first two too. So I will definitely say that. So let me go to you next, RTV. What are your final thoughts on episode 3?
Episode 3, like I said, I enjoyed it. We get to see more of Willow being, more nerdy, cute, and it's the point where, like, if you've been first time watching this, I would assume you're like, well, Buffy, I really care for her, but this Willow, she's got potential.
Okay.
And I love the fact that she's always hacking everything.
Yeah, they put her in that position, in that role. I mean, that was
90s computer nerd stereotype alert.
And she's on what was it? Gateway computers.
Yeah. Gateway was the thing back then. Yes.
What Netscape?
Yeah, Dalton, what are your final thoughts on this episode?
Like I said, I'm glad. Not only that they introduced magic, but that they made it clear that it's basically something that anyone can learn if they want to, because that is probably my least favorite trope, is the the idea that it's somehow genetic or some kind of thing like that. As to the continuing saga with Buffy's mother, I absolutely hate the trope of the clueless parent or the we have to keep the secret from everyone that's not the main group thing. I absolutely hate that, and I wish because it would make everything in the world so much easier if they would just come out like Giles is clearly the adult in the room, so why doesn't he ever tell Joyce, I believe is the mother's name, like this is the history of the Slayer. Your daughter is it. Sorry, but it is what it is. And so on.
Remember, Buffy's only 16, and what if her mom says no and just takes Buffy away? You know, there's always that risk if you tell her this, like, well, this is why we left other school because everybody's crazy.
Well, it's not like demons and vampires and shit are in short supply in Sunnydale. So
I know. I've been waiting for somebody's like, there's a lot of vampires popping on. People are just
they make it clear it's because apparently Sunnydale is built on the mouth of hell.
I know, but
a hell mouth anyway.
You think remember the cell phones were just getting around in '97. I think they were still here, but you didn't have smartphones. But you think
definitely not. No.
But you still had the flip phones with the cameras in them. I remember that. Or the sidekick ones. You turn them on the side. Mm-hmm. Those, yeah.
Well, again, we only know so much, being 3 episodes in of what's going to happen, at least, from my perspective. So, to you guys' point, obviously we're going to know that there's going to be a bunch more crap coming up there too. So it's, to me, watching it for the first time, it's interesting to see what they're going to choose to show at us and how that will, magnify later on, or what path they'll go down with what type of stuff, demons, devils, whatever too, which brings us to what I think I'll go ahead and just flow right into episode 4 here is, I think by far the best episode of the 4 that we've talked about so far. And that's Teacher's Pet. This one,
feature.
Two really neat things about it to me, and then a kind of a minus, if you will. For me, the neat thing about this is I thought that the science teacher, the old guy, Mr. Gregory, I thought him and Buffy had a really nice exchange when they were talking, and it was basically an adult, I think, kind of just treating her, like a human being that just happens to be 16 years old, not like a dipshit teenager. And I think she kind of recognized it. And of course, that's the connection because he gets whacked. And of course, you get Xander being a dipshit and everything else there too. But to Xander's strength in this episode, they get the super, super hot, smoking hot, would never dress like that ever, even in today's relaxed standards world in school, hot, sexy woman that comes in, and she's supposed to be that way because all the guys are goo goo gaga over her. She's replacing the science teacher.
And she would in a high school and so on.
Pheromones. I just gotta say it was one thing, so she gets away with anything. And if you really think the principal is really gonna say anything, he doesn't have a backbone.
I don't even want to talk about the principal at this point. I'm still mad at Xander. Well, I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to talk about him later. I try to forget about that. I'm trying to focus on the positives. And the positives are the lady who played Miss French comes in and starts talking about the praying mantis and all that.
Her name's Musetta Vander. She's been in so many different things. She was on the Sentinel. She was on Voyager, or not Voyager, but some of those Star Treks. And then she's also she's in She Spies, VIP, Stargate, SG-1. Mm-hmm. She was a character actor. She's in a lot of stuff. Plus, she has a lot of music videos too.
She's gorgeous, and she's dressed not slutty, not trampy, not trashy. But this is one of those things where you can't dress like that. It's just too sexy. It's just too much. And again, that's the whole point to what's going on here, because it turns out she's, now I'll let you guys talk about that, but she does a great job in it. And the only negative to me about this is the fact that I kind of wanted to see Xander drop his first nut and a creature, and we weren't going to get that. It's about guys being kind of scared to have sex that first time. And all I'm going to sit there and say is I found that whole point about him being seduced by her completely unbelievable at all. It really kind of took away from the goofiness of it to me there. So to me, that was kind of a bit of a negative. There's no way in hell if a guy's going over to his teacher's house, she's going to do it. That guy's...
I disagree, though. I think it is believable because the fact she's usually secreting any pheromones, it will heighten everything else. Your libido will be more in control of your head.
Yeah, hormones are a hell of a drug, as they say.
Yeah, but well, Doctor, you're mentioning all this kind of stuff there too. I mean, what did you think of this?
Well, I thought this was like a great way to lead into right. What the whole because before this or after this, after this is when it started happening. You started getting teachers sleeping with students. Up until this point, I'd never seen anything on TV like that, or even heard about it in real life. So I almost wonder if this inspired a bunch of teachers. Like, you know what? Maybe I can get away with it.
Well, even
Nah,
the
there's been around there plenty.
even the previous episode had a few exchanges of stuff you wouldn't have gotten away with easily on 1997 TV when Amy was talking about how her mom and dad got divorced and how her dad was kind of a deadbeat. I don't that wasn't really a thing,
No,
especially
no.
not on something targeted for teenagers back then, because that was the heyday or at least the latter days of the satanic panic and the traditionalist values shtick. So that was another thing that sort of pushed the boundaries a little bit more than you'd think.
But
I just think that it's just another episode about men being completely ineffective and at the complete control of women. Honestly, I mean, you think about it. I've known so many people and so many of their personal stories about things that happens with teachers or older women or the mother down the block or whatever. A guy's first time while nervous is exciting, and to see Xander, I thought, well, he's perfect for being in this role here too. She went after, of course, a young virgin guy that because that's supposed to be the thing for her species.
The thing with Xander, he's an idiot, so it is believable for me. Her thing that being an idiot, and also he's thinking, you know what, Buffy's not going to put out. I'm just daydreaming here. This lady looks like she's going to put out. I'll go with her. Easy thing.
Oh, yeah, because right now Buffy's coming across as a prude to me. It's like, Buffy, you're super hot. You're dressed up like a cheerleader in the last episode. We know you're going to spread it the first chance you can for an Angel, but
And also, she has literal superpowers like super strength and whatnot. So yeah, I can imagine Xander being a little bit blindsided here.
I'll say my favorite.
That being said, he should just be with Willow already, but that's
my favorite part for this whole entire episode is when during the cage, and he's like, he's like, take him. He's the one that pulled me in here.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. Well, I mean, the team kind of show up. They know what she is. Giles, of course, figures it out, and
The ending though had a really good thing. Like always, whenever you play a game or a horror game, there's it just that trope.
Oh, where it's maybe not over.
Yeah.
It did kind of annoy me. They had to make up their own mythology rather than like rebrand or reconfigure something that already existed, like maybe the Lamia from Greek mythology or something. That would have been more interesting, I think.
I love Giles on the phone with the other. Well, it must have been another watcher or somebody. The content he went crazy. Mm-hmm. So he's like, I don't care if he's crazy. You unstrap him and you put him on the phone.
No, but I mean, it's an episode where I looked at and said, sometimes when you have shows like this, X-Files immediately comes to mind, or Millennium, or really a lot of these weekly type shows, like where you're only going to have some episodes of during the season that are related to the meta arc. And then here, I'm glad that based after the first two episodes, I'm like, you know what, that was kind of cheesy. I don't like the master and all that. And I'm glad that these were just one-offs where I could kind of check my brain a little bit and watch it too, because Buffy hacks her up with machete or whatever at the end, and everything's fine, and there's really not much to it.
You know what I was missing from the episode when she's doing that? The guts flying everywhere, the slime. That's what I wanted to see. I was like, come on, really?
All right, so at this point, let's go with this. What do we think? What do we think of Buffy as far as a character? I'm really, obviously she's attractive. But she's a teenage girl, and she does a good job of coming across that way. And she's not hateable at this point, but she's not likable to me either. And again, the whole group dynamic we talked about for the first two episodes, I think was wrong here.
To me, she's acting like a stubborn teenager. She knows everything.
I continue to be of the opinion that much like Hellboy in the Hellboy franchise, it might the thing might be named for her, but she is the least interesting part of it. Like, she seems to be, honestly, she seems almost like more of a everyman gateway character than even Xander does sometimes. Because Xander is stupid to the point of laughable even to the most normal person you can imagine. So I don't think he quite works as well as a gateway character. But Buffy is, you know, this ditzy Hollywood Valley girl who's out of her depth. So maybe they tried to make her sort of the gateway character for a little bit. I don't know, but yeah, she's not likable or enjoyable. She's just a means to the end. Like, this is the main character, so we can have all the interesting side characters, and you're just going to have to deal with her. All right.
It seems like Mr. Pixels wants to join us, so I'm going to add him to the stream.
Who's this guy?
Mr. Pixel, you survived the looting. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. A little groggy, but okay. My alarm failed me, but
I told you.
No worries, no worries. We were just talking about episode 4, which is the
praying mantis episode.
yeah. So why don't you tell us what your thoughts were about it?
It was kind of fun in an odd way. I preferred the episode before it, honestly, but
Why is that?
Well, the episode before it, I felt like it had more of a curved road that you were going down as you were trying to follow the quick plot of it, because at that point you knew there was a witch.
Yes.
The first assumption I had was the mom was the witch.
Okay.
We go there, we go to the house. We clearly know at a certain point it's not the mom, and we're pretty sure it's the daughter. The daughter, until that point, had no indication that it was actually her. And then the twist that it was the mom in the daughter's body. It was just one final curve that you couldn't help but enjoy.
Body switching.
Yeah, and we had mentioned right actually before you popped on too about that episode. I think Dalton had brought it up where, you know, you're introduced here not just to witches, but you know, just the idea that anybody can learn magic if they're, you know, rather than just being born into a bloodline or being able to read the sacred symbols or any of that kind of nonsense stuff. It's just something you can learn how to do. So here we're going, okay, we don't know who knows what or how they know it or what book or how they get the knowledge. And so I thought it was a good episode too, because, you know, not just introducing witches, but you got things a bit fleshed out. And I called it a bit more of a whodunit.
Yeah, it was. And I really think that was the first, like, truly solid episode. And considering it's the third episode in the series, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I originally thought that these 2 episodes were better than the first 2, which is like one long episode broken up. So you liked episode 3 more than 4, but what about 4 did you like, or what did you notice that you wanted to share?
Well, 4 was enjoyable. I also found it kind of cruelly funny how the first character in the school other than Xander and Willow that actually showed some sort of concern or care for Buffy instantly got killed.
Yeah. You're a competent adult character? No, we can't have that. You must die by the end of this episode. Sorry.
You're a male? Oh, don't even be male.
You're a competent adult and you're male and you're not Giles. Well then, it was nice knowing you. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes
Yeah.
are calling.
Giles is the only one who can hold that position, and anybody who tries to get on this territory, it's actually Giles just sending these monsters.
Like, I shall be the only intellectual around these parts. I agree.
There is no master. It's all make believe.
Well, I'll be the first one to say it. You know, I thought when Giles came up, I thought he was going to be a little bit of a nerd, and he kind of is, but not dopey like everybody else was in the 90s. Really bad. And I thought, yeah, it'd really be cool if somehow this turned out into a really weird kind of love affair between him and Buffy, which I'm sure it will not ever be, or whatever. And I don't really care how it turns out, but I just thought, yeah, he's just going to be the stuffy guy sitting over there talking stuff while the other people implement the plan, and then Buffy saves the day. So actually, when you hopped on, Pixel, we were talking about characters and what we thought. I was asking him, what did they think of Buffy up to this point through 4 episodes as a character? What do you think of her?
I think the third episode really helps bring us to know her. Like in the first two, we get the basic plot of her story at this point. But in the third one, it really expands to show that she does have a rough time of things. I still don't get last week when like Eric Breen said anti or pro Buffy. I guess we just don't know enough yet. But I really don't dislike her. Like she's not the main reason for coming. She's the star of the show, but she's not the main reason for us coming. We're coming for the story. She's a part of the story, but she's not someone I dislike.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. RDV, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, orange juice. No. I was going to talk about the best part of the whole entire thing is not even Xander in this whole episode. Is the vampire with the giant freaking claw.
That's right. I know. My, how did I forget him?
we can't track him down. We'll just grab the vampire. She's repellent to vampire. Because whenever he gets screams, you want to go in the house? She's definitely in this house.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, overall, from my final thought,
the cops were there. We got him, and he gets away. They had a sting operation. Although I knew right away when she saw the homeless people there because a homeless man was murdered in there in the park. I'm like, this reminds me of another movie I saw, and I thought that was like was it a John Candy film? I can't remember what it was, but they used a stinger operation in the park. It might have been a comedy movie. I can't remember what it was, but it was just so obvious. It was like the one guy who's like, now we got him, boys, and then like he runs away.
Yeah, and I know by looking at the clock, you can tell it's not going to have the fallout to it. So, no, I agree. Monster of the week, check your brain, pretty good, and everything else there too. But let's go around the room here for our final thoughts. For me, obviously, I enjoyed these two more than the first two. I think 4 was the funnest episode. Maybe 3 was actually pretty good. I agree with you on that, Pixel. But yeah, 4 I kind of liked. And I went, okay, at this point, it's getting a little bit better, so I feel a little bit relieved about what's going to be happening with Buffy, especially after only 4 episodes. How much can you really know? So, Dalton, what are your final thoughts on these 2 episodes and just overall where we're at?
I really enjoy these 2. It sort of, I think it helps that we're out of the. As annoying as the 2-part pilot was, it did at least get all of the necessary exposition out of the way, so we can just kind of enjoy the almost pulp-like quality to this. And yes. It's nice that Buffy has hit kind of a stride. I don't think it's hit its peak stride yet. That doesn't really happen until around season 3, but it's at least better than 90% of the shows you would have had like this in 1997, so I can't really fault it for much of anything.
And hitting your stride, I think, is a good comment. I will revisit that later because I think the strong element was just a moment or two when Xander and Willow were saying something about, well, hey, we're a team. We're going to do this together. And I thought, okay, if that becomes the crux of the show, that might make it a hell of a lot better because the team dynamic thing was definitely there. RDV, what about you? Final thoughts on where we're at this point?
Well, I agree with Dalton. The first 2 episodes, I consider it as one giant episode, and it's basically just to get introduce characters, and that's it. It's an icebreaker. Okay, this is this person is. This is this person's personality. Okay, we know who they are. These next 2 episodes is basically shows how well they can work together, and and you get to see a little bit more of Angel, and they kind of bait along as like hey, who is this guy? This is getting annoying. His guy's name Angel. Even Xander says like it's kind of a girly name. And it's like his name's.
So I want to see Xander beat his ass because I dislike him a lot more than Xander.
Yeah, you
did say that.
But This is you remember this first season is 12 episodes. I mean, so they're not going to give you like the main plot right away. I mean, so I think that by the next episode is when they actually introduce more of the vampire stuff, more of the master, because they want to stretch it along as much as you can.
Oh, I don't know what to expect, so we'll see about that. But as far as wussy ass vampires that Joe's mentioning, I blame Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. All right, Pixel.
Even when it's not their fault, it's usually their fault. So that's probably not a terrible decision.
All right, Pixel. Final thoughts on these 2 episodes and just overall where we're at for these 4. What's going on with you?
Well, I think it's a nice breather from the vampire stuff. I've watched the entire season already, so I'm trying not to get too far ahead of myself.
Well, damn it, you're a Buffy addict already.
You've been, yeah. I could have seen that coming. Totally could have seen that coming.
But
No wonder you're tired.
I do think it's not tonight.
I thought you did already.
I really think it was a good breakaway from the vampire plot, and it will help us along the path that we go, because it expands the world in almost I would want to use this I want to say a gentle way, but considering that both episodes are entirely beyond vampires, other than the vampire with a claw, I feel like that it really helps expand the universe to us, and it will help it along its path.
All right, nice. Yeah, I'm curious too, because like I say, for those that are new to listening to the Extreme Movie Show, we've covered a lot of different things. Buffy is something that's brand new. We've tried. I've never seen it, and I know Pixel, you hadn't either, and I know you just binged the first season, so that seems positive. I had zero interest in it, and really, I think the only negative thing about it overall is just it's got that 90s goofy guy thing, which is just irritating and all that too. But that being said, it's been campy enough where it's been entertaining, at least to watch it. So I hope to see that continues, and we'll see which way it decides to go. Hopefully not too preachy. Hopefully they expand on do a lot of different things. I did like how they had some historical things in the first world building 2 episodes, and I expect that to probably continue too, so we'll see. So I'd like to thank you guys, Dalton, RDV, and Professor Pixel, for showing up again tonight. Next week we'll be taking a look at episodes 5 and 6 of season 1 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer too. So thank you guys for showing, thank you guys for listening, retweeting. We're getting a lot more people listening to it. This Buffy thing has been doing pretty good. I'm really pleased to see that. It shows that there's definitely something to it for a show that's over 20 years old since it started.
23 years old, actually.
That's why I said over 20. It's something that I was curious to see what kind of reaction to get there too. But yeah, it's definitely something good here on Extreme TV. Thank you guys. Thank you all for listening. Have a good night. And as always, stay extreme.
Cheers, guys.
See you around.